heard of food phobias? Anyone? Yeah. If you have heard it, do you think it's related to picky eating? Anyone?
No.
Or what about anorexia? No? Okay. We'll get into that later, but first I want to talk about why I decided to talk about food phobias. So ever since I was little, I always loved chicken, specifically chicken tenders. I remember one time my family and I went to Disney World, and we went for a week, and all 3 meals every day I got chicken tenders. Which had to be some kind of record, because that's what, 21 meals of chicken tenders. But I had a really weird relationship with chicken tenders because I would systematically pick them apart into piles of edible pieces and non-edible pieces. Non-edible pieces would be parts that had like a red spot, were too stringy, were too tough, were too slimy. The list goes on. But after years of doing this, it got to a point where I would start the meal, and at the end I would have no idea I had done it, and I'd look at my plate, and it would be like a graveyard of not eating chicken pieces. And my friends always asked me why I did it, and I had no explanation for it, so I decided to do this talk to maybe get some clarity on that. So when I told my friends I was doing a talk on food phobias, they were all like, oh, I've always wondered why people are such picky eaters, or why some people hate mustard. And some people were like, isn't that just anorexia? And this actually is not what a food phobia is, so hopefully this talk will debunk that idea. So what is a food phobia then? Matthew Knock defines it as being characterized by the fear and avoidance of chewing or swallowing foods or fluids, which most often occurs directly following a conditioning experience involving choking on food or vomiting. So this umbrella term that I've been using is actually something that only applies to children, because children are unable to verbalize precisely what they feel, according to Knock. And this is seen in 25% of children and causes weight loss and other medical problems, and can lead to anorexia and bulimia in adulthood. So I wanted to see if there was some kind of adult manifestation, and I came across this term, selective eating disorder. This is a relatively new term, and it's kind of just like extreme picky eating. So when I was researching it, I read this case study of a woman named Jenna, and 90% of her meals were French fries. Not because she liked French fries even, but just because she got intense anxiety if she tried to eat anything else. And after 15 years of therapy, she finally added pancakes to her diet, which was interesting. And she said when she was 18, she tried to eat an orange and just immediately vomited it. So that's an extreme case. It usually manifests in people eating like a certain color food or just crunchy food or something like that. And this is important because recent research has found a really high correlation between selective eating disorder and autism and OCD. So researchers tell parents to look out for these symptoms in their children because it could mean developing autism or OCD later in life. Another facet of food phobias are neophobes and neophiles, which mean respectively hating trying new foods and loving trying new foods. So Raudenbush and Capiola did a study to see if this was just a behavioral phenomenon or if it had some kind of biological implications. So in their study, they separated groups of neophobes and neophiles and showed them 2 sets of pictures. The first set was of unfamiliar foods, and the second set was used as control. It was non-food pictures, so like landscapes and pictures of houses. And then they measured the physiological responses of both groups to the pictures. And as you can see in the control group, there's no difference in physiological response, but in the food pictures, the neophobes have a really heightened physiological response, which means, according to Raudenbush and Capiola, that there's some biological basis for neophobia, which has still not been researched, but they need more study into that. But it still means not just about picky eating, which is interesting. So next I wanted to look into how food phobias are related to eating disorders. And as I was doing my research, I kept coming across this term, cibophobia, which just generically is defined as fear of food. And a lot of people confuse this with anorexia, but actually cibophobia has no relation to body image, and rather it clinically manifests in the fear of unknown foods, perishable foods, and meat and vegetables. So then I looked more at anorexia specifically and found that it's split into 2 subtypes, the fat-phobic type and the non-fat-phobic type. Fat-phobic type is what I think most of us would think of when we think of anorexia, which is just the irrational fear of weight gain. But the non-fat-phobic type is what I found to be really interesting. These people aren't afraid of weight gain and actually recognize that they're underweight and have a desire to gain weight, but cite other reasons for their low body mass, like just gastrointestinal problems or loss of appetite in general. But because of how anorexia is receive the same treatment, which I think could be problematic. Alright, so what do we learn? That food phobias are a lot more than just picky eating and weird food preferences. They can have important indications of serious disorders like autism and OCD. As we've seen with neophobes, they have physiological effects, so they're not just behavioral. And with eating disorders, I think more research should be done to see if the non-fat phobic type of anorexia is just another type of food fear, and maybe a different treatment plan could come out of that. And as we've seen with Jenna, with only eating French fries, they have really serious impacts on health and nutrition. So I didn't get any explanation for my weird relationship to chicken tenders, but I now realize that this is a really important topic and more research should be